Well, g'day everybody. Welcome to Ask the Cheeseman number 37, I think it is. Let's just check the health of the stream and make sure that's okay. Yep, YouTube says it's fantastic. And we've got a few online already this morning, which is excellent. We've been having a bit of a chat before we started. So we'll just wait for a little bit before we start off the show in earnest. I hope you've got all your cheesy questions ready. Before we start, somebody give me a sound check. Does it sound okay? And can you all hear me all right? All right, great. Thanks, guys. Just get some focus. It might work too. There we go. That's a bit better. All righty. Is Kim there? I can't see her on the chat. Oh, there she is. She's there. Fantastic. All right, let's start the show, shall we?
Well, g'day, curd nerds. G'day, curd nerds.
Well, g'day, curd nerds.
Well, g'day, curd nerds.
Well, g'day, curd nerds. Well, g'day, curd nerds. And I'm back. Welcome to the show. This is where you can ask all of your cheese making questions and I will attempt to answer them. So let's go through the list and say some g'days. First person on the show this morning was Joy. She was very eager. And then we had Kep and Rabbit Slayer and Louise all the way from British Columbia. We've got B Swins. We've got Amal. We've got Sal for Kingdom from Texas. Neo Planter. Vissy, I think. Mickey D. G'day, Mick. And Sour who's Kim. Kim's the moderator. And my lovely wife doing a great job there. Peter Brown, hello from Guernsey, all the way on the Channel Islands. G'day, Peter. Lovely to see you. And Dustin, how are you? Alrighty. So I've only got a couple of things I wanted to have a quick chat about. First of all, you would have seen the Wabbit Slayer. Yes. You would have seen the Parmesan video. If not, here's the link. There we go. So link to the Parmesan video that I put up yesterday. Unfortunately, I didn't put it up on Sunday because it took such a long time. I couldn't complete filming at least putting it in the ripening box and then talking about how to mature the thing. So I didn't film that until I think it was about midnight on Sunday night. So I didn't quite have the video on the can and had to work Monday and finished it on Monday night. Got it up on Tuesday. Anyway, apologies for the lateness of that video, but it's there and seems to be quite popular. If anybody in the chat has any requests for me to remake any of the older videos, and some of them are, well, by today's standards, they're quite ordinary. I'm happy to take requests, and we can see where we go. Thank you, Cap, for that lovely super chat. Yeah, that's a timely reminder that if anybody wants to support the show, then go. There's a little $ button on the chat bar there. It's called a super chat, and for as little as $1, I think it might be $2 Australian, you can donate during the show, and all proceeds go to me, with YouTube taking a slight cut for processing payments, but that's okay. Also, don't forget that you can support the show via Patreon, and if Kim's handy with the Patreon link there, that will be fantastic, and people can pledge on a monthly basis, I think as little as $1 US. And that helps the show keep going, pays for my broadband and the tech and all that sort of stuff. So that's cool. Super Chat doesn't work on iOS devices. Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, I think YouTube are actually working on that because they've had a lot of complaints. Because did you know and this is a non-cheesy, did you know, fun fact, that 50%, in fact, even more now, of YouTube videos are now viewed on mobile devices. So YouTube are having to make sure that their app is fully functional for creators like me. So anyway, so let's get on with the cheesy questions. I think Mick had a question. Mick says, I am using raw farm milk, 3 hours old, and want to make more Parmesan. How would you treat this milk to reduce the fat content? Mick, what I would do is leave it for at least 12 hours, and you'll see that a vast majority of cream will float to the top. So skim the cream off, not all of it, just a fair bit. I wouldn't be able to estimate. It's very hard. You'll have to do it through trial and error. But skim the cream off, keep the cream for something else, make some butter or something, or add it to another cheese to increase the fat content. And that'd be the best way to reduce the fat there. Okay, Joy has said, in the Parmesan video, did you use a sharp or mild lipase? Or did you have a lipase that was neither sharp or mild? I have been able to buy either sharp or mild. Okay, so there's two main types of lipase, Joy. The milder version is from a calf, so from cows, and the sharp version is from kids or from goats. So that's the difference. The one that I have is a mild lipase, so it's from cows. So hopefully that clears that up. Kep says, Gav, what's the best way, love the pun, to store a half wheel of uneaten Camembert? Yeah, look, the micro crystalline, the micro perforated paper that it comes with, Kep, then that's the best way to just wrap it back up in that. And eat it as quick as you can. Really, it doesn't store very well once it's been cut in half or any part of it come out. Usually tends to start going runny and over ripens quite quickly. So that's probably the best way to store it back in the micro perforated paper. And g'day to Lewis and Pale, won't say your name, but hello Gavin. What other things do you enjoy doing other than making wonderful cheese? Well, I enjoy teaching. In fact, on the weekend, I finished a private cheese making class with 3 lovely gents from here in Melbourne and taught them how to make paneer, ricotta, and quick mozzarella over the course of about 5 hours. It was good fun. So Kim and I actually have a small business on weekends. Well, not every weekend, but most weekends we're teaching at the local community centre, either soap making, candle making, what else? Bath bombs, and of course cheese. So that's the sort of things that we do there as well. Sabine, I think that's how you say it. How do you control the temperature to make the cheese age properly for a beginner? Well, there's a couple of ways. Make cheeses that don't need temperature control. For instance, there should be Kim's got a video link there for beginner cheese. There's about 5 or 6 cheeses you make as a beginner without having to have a cheese fridge. All you do is, if you can afford it, get a second-hand bar fridge and get an external thermostat. If you're here in Australia, we actually have some. You can contact us via our email address. Basically, yeah, it's just a fridge, or you can get those wine fridges that you can control the temperature of. If you can pick one of those up second-hand, then yeah, it's quite good fun. Okay, Lewis says, I bought a wheel of queso fresco not long ago, and it was bland. What was wrong? Nothing was wrong. Queso fresco is a bland cheese. There's not much to it. There's hardly any ripening time as well. The version that I put a video up for does have a culture, but you eat it within 6 hours. So it presses for 6 hours, and then you eat it straight away. Usually things are added to queso fresco, so that's the best way to do it. So it's a bland cheese. That's all there is to it. Piccolo says, I used a vegetarian rennet and was given 3 different amounts to use. I used too much rennet, I guess, as the cheese was quite sharp and has a strange aftertaste. My question is, what happens if you use too much rennet? What happens is, Piccolo, is that the... I'll take a breath. Okay, so what happens is the curd sets too strongly and not enough whey gets released. So when you're washing the curds during the process for Edam, then you're not getting enough acid released from the curds, which is in the form of whey. So therefore, that's why it's too sharp. So use just enough rennet to set your cheese. Now, if you looked at that Parmesan video I just did, you would have noticed that the initial time that I had figured was 45 minutes, but I had to wait an extra 10. It's okay if you have to wait, even up to an hour. It's no big deal. It's better to use slightly less rennet than you think than more. But not too little or it won't set at all. Okay, Peter says, I've made Fondue. Can I reuse the brine for other non-blue cheeses? I don't want the blue spreading. Ooh, yeah, look, it tends to. What you can do, Peter, is boil the brine. So bring it to the boil. That'll kill off the Penicillium Rock 40 and Bob's your uncle. Easy. I'll let it cool down before you use it again, of course. Vissy says, if you upload a bath bomb vid, that will be great. Kind of not in tune with this channel. I do have another channel called Little Green Workshops. You can actually search for that. It actually does have soap making videos, candle videos, a few very basic cheese making videos repurposed from this channel. But yes, we do intend on putting up a bath bomb video very soon. I actually have it in production. So thanks for the suggestion, but not for this channel. Anyway, Piccolo says, oh no, I've already read that one. Sorry. Julia, I've made your recipe for squeaky curds. When I ate it, they were quite a bit crumbly and not squeaky. And when I fried them, they would not melt at all. Any idea? Sounds like a bit too much rennet. If they were crumbly, then yeah, the too much rennet. Just check, because the rennet that I use a brand called Chimax Plus, which is made by CHR Hansen. It's a microbial rennet, and it only has an IMCU of 200, which is slightly less than single strength rennet. Single strength rennet tends to be 200 IMCU. IMCU stands for International Milk Coagulating Unit, which is standard in cheese making. And single strength rennet tends to be 280 to 300 IMCU. So maybe just lower the rennet a little bit. And it depends on the type of milk you used as well. If you're using raw milk, then use even less rennet. Only by, a quarter of a milliliter. Fatal Hero Master, love your passion. Keep being awesome. Thank you very much. And Santiago, ungodly, yes, it is. Hello, how are you, mate? Ungodly hour in Hong Kong. Sorry about that. Soon it'll change and it'll be even more ungodly. As our clocks go forward an hour in, I think it's the first weekend in October. Anyway, Mick has said, could you talk about how you clean out your cheese fridge and how often you do it? Yeah, good question, Mick. So depending on how humid the cheese fridge is, or how humid you make it, depends on how much mold growth there is. Oh, looks like we've lost the stream, or maybe not. It's thinking about it. Hang on, I'll just check. Sorry about this, guys. There we go. Yeah. If you see it's lagging, then just refresh. Yeah, so for those, yeah, I've just checked the stream. If you just refresh the page, then you will have no problems. You'll get it back again. Anyway, I'll keep going with the question. So let me just have a look. Yeah, it's all good. I can see him moving those. I'm back. Yes, I am. Yeah, something happened with YouTube there. Says the stream health was okay. So it's all good. Anyway, so back to the question. So if that ever happens again, all we have to do is refresh the page and it comes back. It just seems to be a bit of a YouTubey thing. Happened last week as well. So not sure. I'll try and keep an eye on it. It's very hard to, but if you can let me know as soon as it happens in the chat, then just refresh and I'll let people know. Anyway, so Mick's question was around cleaning your cheese fridge out. Basically, what I do every couple of months, if I see mold build up on the sides of the fridge, what I basically do is squirt out the inside. So take all the cheese out, of course, and then pull all the racks out, and then just spray the whole inside with white vinegar, and then just wipe that down just with a lint-free cloth. And that seems to be okay, and that seems to work out. So really simple, just white vinegar, spray bottle, trigger bottle, and away you go. Okay, next question. Hopefully I haven't missed any during that storm of lost the chat thing. Where are we? Okay, Steve asks, hi Gavin, how and when do I add wine to my cheese? There's two ways. So there are two variations. So the first one is when if you're making like a cheddar type cheese, you can cut and you have to cut the curd into cubes before you press it. What you can do is soak the cubes of curd in wine so they get a coloured layer so that it only absorbs a little bit. So you do that for about 30 minutes to an hour, and then you drain that wine off, and then you press the cheese, and you'll have this lovely red marbling. And make sure it's red wine. White wine, it won't work. So you get this lovely red marbling, and that'll be fantastic. The other way is to, after you've brined the cheese or dry salted it, then basically, Kim's banning people that shouldn't be banned there. She's not quite sure what's going out. So yeah, the other one is after you've brined or dry salted, then you can soak your cheese as after it's been pressed in wine, red wine, and that's basically a drunken cow recipe. There's quite a few out there. I think I might even have one in my book. I'm not sure. It'll be in the second book anyway. But yeah, that's the two methods that you can introduce wine into your cheese, other than drinking wine whilst eating the cheese, of course. Okay. A couple more after all this banning stuff going on. Where are we? It shouldn't happen. Snezana says, hello from Belgrade. Tonight I'm making Saint Nectar. I will let you know about the results. That'd be fantastic. It's one cheese I haven't made. And Richard said, hi, Gavin. I made your Bloomy Goat Blue over the weekend. I'll let you know how it goes. Yeah, I've had some great reports back from that cheese. People here in Melbourne have tried it the day the video was released. All over the place, I think, not just Melbourne. But they said really good results and fantastic flavour. So I'm really pleased with that creation. It was my own creation. The final bit was anyway. And I cobbled the recipe together from many places. Didn't quite like them. Made it up as I went along. And there you go. We've got Bloomy Goat Blue. Anyway, so that was good fun. Creating a recipe from scratch as well. I suck at gaming. G'day, mate. How are you? Vorden says, hello, Gavin. I have a couple of questions about mould cheeses. How many days does Camembert ripen and at what humidity? What reason can be if outside everything okay, with mold, but inside it doesn't melt. Okay. Yep. So good question. Camembert is kind of my nemesis, so I'll give you some experience. So Camembert will take up to 10 days to be fully coated with the white mold, and that's at 7 degrees Celsius, and the humidity is about 90 to 95%. So what you need to do after that 10 days is to wrap it up in cheese wrap or micro perforated cheese wrap and store it at 4 degrees Celsius for another 2 weeks, maybe a little bit longer, 2.5 weeks. And you'll find that the cheese will start to go soft in the middle. I usually test the first one out of the batch of 4 at the 3-week mark to see if it's still pasty in the middle. If it's just pasty in the middle and the outsides are creamy, then I know that I need to wait another week. That's how I basically test it. Okay, where are we? Santiago says, made your Cotswold recipe, but only had onion powder instead of chives. Added a bit of sage. We'll vac pack in a couple of hours and we'll see in November. I think that'll turn out. Anything dried, as long as the herb or the spice that you add is dried and not fresh, usually turns out quite well. Okay, Lewis says, can you make cheese with 2 different coloured curds? Well, yes, you can. I was sent a recipe. What did he call it? I think he called it Colby, no, not Colby Jack, Romano Jack or something like that. What he made was he made two cheeses at the same time in 2 separate pots. One had an annatto added to it, so I think it was Colby. The other one was Romano or something like that. It could have been cheddar. And basically at the milling stage, he just milled the curds together, so cut them into cubes of sorts. Fairly small, about 1 centimetre cubes, he told me. And then press them together. So, and you'll have a marbled effect. So it'll be a 2-coloured type cheese. So anybody can give that a go. I might even try that a little bit further down the track. Should be good fun. Anyway, what is the ratio for brining time versus weight of cheese? Yes, well, it is usually for 1 kilogram. It depends on how dense the cheese is too. So usually it's for 1 kilogram, 6 hours. Now, most of my cheeses are topping out now at about 1.2, maybe a bit larger. That Parmesan was nearly 2 kilos in weight. So that's why I had to brine it longer, and it's a lot denser. And it depends on how hard you press the cheese as well. If you press it at least 50 pounds of pressure or 22 kilos, then you need to brine it for a fairly long time. That Parmesan was a bit of an exception. I don't really brine cheese that long. 12 hours is usually what I do for the cheeses that I make, and I find they're salted just right, and the salt does permeate all the way through the middle. Okay. Dustin says, I'm thinking, someone asked a while back, but have you made any beer cheese with your home brew? No, not as yet. But time is, I'm a young man. There's lots of time. We'll get there. Okay. So we got Benjamin. What's the best way to store cheese without a proper cave? As in store it to mature it or store it after it's matured? There's a big difference there. John said, interesting statement of the red wine versus white wine. My company research is dark red wine grapes have hematoglobin, so it is red wine. That red wine cheese would be healthy. That sounds good. Kep asks, should you use the same amount of calcium chloride as to the rennet, or does some recipes have different amounts? Usually I tend to make it the same. Rarely do I put in more than a teaspoon to any batch of milk. Seems to be enough calcium to help set the curds. So, but yeah, up to a teaspoon, I usually match the ratio of rennet to calcium chloride. Too much calcium chloride actually makes your cheese go bitter, because if you've drunk it, if you've tasted it, it is quite a bitter salt. So yeah, so too much makes your cheese go bitter. It's no good for anybody. Alrighty, Louise says, I've made feta cheese. You did with the 10% brine solution, but it was a bit salty for us. Could I use a lower percentage as long as I keep the pH level between 4.8 and 5.2? Yes, you can, Louise. So add, I don't know, what, 3/4 of the amount of salt that I did for that 10% solution. Remembering that salt is the preservative for feta, so it won't last as long, as in it will go moldy quicker if it's not in the brine itself. But mate, yeah, as long as you got a palate, my words aren't coming out properly today. As long as you got a balanced pH, then you won't get any leaching and the cheese won't go slimy. So just make sure that's okay. All right, Richard asks again, can I age Camembert in the regular fridge at 4 degrees? Will Candidum grow at that temperature, providing the humidity is in the correct range? It doesn't tend to. It tends to grow a lot slower. So you really do have to pad out the maturing time by about 2 weeks. So you can give it a go, Richard. Look, there's no harm in trying. You'll have a tasty cheese regardless of whether the mold grows or not. And it'll be very edible. So yeah, try it. But from experience, it does slow down the growth. That's why you put it into the normal fridge after it's got the mold growth at 7 degrees Celsius. Okay. James says, no questions, big fan. Hello, James. How are you? Lewis, thank you very much. MJ UK, I enjoyed your Parmesan video. Thank you very much. Anala, no question, just a question mark. Okay, Chibi, Chinny Cha. As someone who hates cheese, sorry, can't stand it, I would just want to stop by and say your videos are very enjoyable to watch. Never going to try to eat them, but will watch all your videos. That's okay. People don't have to like cheese to enjoy the Cheeseman, apparently, which is pretty cool. Anyway, got a t-shirt for you. There we go. Take it cheesy. This one was given to me by my daughter, so it's not for sale. I don't have it in the merch store. I might see where she got the design from and see where we can get it, but I haven't got a link at the moment. But yeah, it's a pretty cool shirt. Okay. Too mature, says Benjamin. And Benjamin. All right. So with that cage. All right. It's a bit difficult if you've got a basement that has a temperature range of around 13 degrees Celsius, then that'll be fine as long as you put it in a maturing box or wax or vac pack. If you've got a cold cupboard or pantry, then that's another good place that you can mature your cheese as long as the temperature doesn't go over 13 degrees. So there's a couple of options. I have actually done aged a Wensleydale, one of the first or second cheeses I ever made. And I did that in the cupboard before I had a cheese fridge, made sure I had a thermometer in there, and I could tell that it was about 12 to 13 degrees. I had it in wax, so there was nothing leaking out of it or anything. And it turned out perfectly. It was lovely. It just happened I did it in winter, and it was a very cold cupboard. So, no, that worked fine. Okay. Vorden, hang on. Anala says, have you made mascarpone yet? Yes, I have. There's a video in the video archive for mascarpone. Just make sure you use tartaric acid and not cream of tartar like I did. It tended to make it go thicker quicker. So tartaric acid, you should be able to get it at all good food ingredient stores and some cheese making supplies. We don't have it for sale at the moment because it's not a very popular item. Okay, Vorden says, thank you for your answer. What will happen if the Camembert, the temperature of ripening will be 8 to 13? It just grows mold faster. There we go, focus. Come on, camera. Yeah, it just grows mold faster, and you'll have to just make sure you keep an eye on it. Oh. Keep going, shall I? Alrighty. Nicholas says, hi Gavin, I've been making the easy mozzarella on your video. It doesn't seem to keep its shape in the fridge. It starts as nice balls, but ends as a single blob in the bottom. Yes, it does. It does indeed. That's why you have to eat it just about straight away. Yeah, it doesn't keep its shape very well at all. If you keep it in brine, it tends to dissolve unless your brine is has a balanced pH. If you want real mozzarella, then check out the real mozzarella video that I produced, and that brine's no problems at all. You can store it in the brine. It will last a lot longer than what the quick mozzarella does. So it's quick to make, and it's quick to eat as well, unfortunately. Gail, hi from Canada. I made my first cheese a month ago, a Colby. Seems quite soft. Is that normal? It's aging in the wine fridge, vacuum sealed. The Colby's actually, well, it's not firm. It's a semi-hard cheese. And it won't be soft to press. So I'm not quite sure without a photo or anything like that. But normally it's not that soft, as in you can push your finger into it. It's quite firm as far as that goes. Anyway, see how it turns out. All the best anyway, Gail. If not, press it a little bit harder next time. Richard, what cheese can fly? Curds of prey. Oh, my goodness. Nice one. Mickey says, having trouble with paper labels. Would like to go to clear plastic labels. Do you know of any? Yes, Avery makes some great brown labels and stuff that you can put on your cheese after you've wrapped them or what have you. I think that's what you're talking about, Mick. Yeah, so yeah, Avery do, and you can print them through your ink printer and all that sort of stuff. What's it called? Inkjet. That's the one. And there's templates online and all that good stuff. So hopefully that's what you're talking about. Free the oranges. Do you have days where you do not eat cheese? Sometimes. Doesn't happen very often. Usually cheese is in our diet. What is Hannibal's favourite cheese? Limburg. Right. Oh, that's Lim. Yeah. Okay. Oimeki says, good evening from Brazil. Good evening to you. Santiago said, watched your new Parmesan video, thanks. Any other cheese that makes use of less fat milk? I have about 3 litres of 1.5 and 4 litres of full cream. Not just sure I can keep it for 6 to 12 months. I can't think of any. Parmesan's quite unique in that it uses skim milk. I'm just trying to think. There is one other that I stumbled across. It doesn't strike me at the moment. No, I can't think of one. Sorry, Santiago, but I do know there is another that uses partially skim milk, but I can't remember what it is. Kim says, flat mozzarella. Yes, still tastes great. It does too. Aaron says, hey, Gavin, how does the double boiler maintain the proper heat? Well, the one that I use is very simple. It's just a pot on a pot, and the pot at the bottom has about, well, I don't know, 5 centimetres of water in the bottom, and it produces steam, and steam is a lot easier to control than direct heat. So as soon as you turn the heat off, the steam stops hitting the bottom of the other pot, and stops heating the milk, and the milk holds its temperature when it's in a big volume very, very well. So much so that that large volume of milk I did use for that Parmesan, it only lost 2 degrees Celsius over the course of 2 hours, and I didn't turn the heat on at all. I got it up to 33 Celsius, and it dropped down to 31 during the course of that, and then I just keep heating it up to 51 when I had to stir it for an hour. So yeah, so milk is amazing. It does retain its heat very well, better than water. Something to do with the solid suspended in it, I would guess. Piccolo says, I have a solid form of calcium chloride. How much should I use? What dilution should I use? It's a 30% solution you're after. So 30% of the calcium chloride powder by weight to filtered water. Usually it's distilled water, so no impurities whatsoever. I just would use pure water as long as it doesn't have any chlorine in it, other than which is different than chloride, by the way. Okay, Dustin, my last cheddar was pressed per the recipe, but started weeping during the air drying. Waited until it quit and vac pack it. Should I be worried? Weeping, I've had that happen during summer. It tends to, during air drying, that it tends to weep. Sometimes it even weeps oil if you've pressed it quite hard. If it was weeping just clear whey, then it wasn't pressed hard enough. And that really, it shouldn't happen. The amount of pressing that a cheddar gets, you press it for a day or so at quite a high pressure. So maybe it hadn't been pressed hard enough, but if it was weeping oil, then the room temperature was too high. Mick says, my two breeze turned out just fabulous, just waiting for the mould to happen. That's excellent, Mick. Shoot me some photos. I would love to see them. I've got to get around to making it. Santiago says, just a thought, maybe purer. How long did you age it? I aged the purer for 6 months, Santiago. So give that a go. It was very nice. That use reduced fat milk? Probably not, but it'll probably turn out. It's an Alpine style cheese. I think it'll probably turn out okay. Okay. Yeah. Richard, you've inspired me to create my own recipe. I'm thinking making triple cream cam blue. What are your thoughts? It will work. I can't think of why it wouldn't. In fact, for that recipe, and it's also called Camembert, you actually do add some cream to it. Very similar to what a double brie or a triple brie is. That just means you've added more cream to the milk. Yeah, that'll work, Richard. Aaron, awesome. Thanks for the answer. I'm an avid cheese mutt head, and my wife and I consider moving to a farm. That's a big step. Very interested in cheese making, as it is expensive here in Texas. It's certainly a good way to augment your income if you have some milking animals. Price of milk these days everywhere is ridiculous that farmers get for their milk. So, yeah, making cheese on the farm, if you've got the proper license and all that, or just for home use, is a great way to value add to the milk. Mick says, update on the pot stirrer. Motor works well, but the stirring arms have to be changed to stop the bulldozing effect. When this is done, I'll send a video. Fantastic, Mick. And what I'll do with that video is I'll share it on the live show so people can see what Mick's created there. And Mick, put a bit of a narrative when you record the video as well. That'd be fantastic. Dustin, okay, yeah, it's summer here. Look kind of oily when I wiped it off. Yep, that'll be it, all right. Okay, Asman, nice to see you. Missed half an hour. Yes, you did. It's more, 40 minutes even was. Yes. Knitten Kitten, is there a way to tell if your milk has ripened enough? Yeah, the pH level. Now, if you've got a pH testing, that's the only way, really. But to tell if your milk is ripe enough, if it doesn't set a curd, then it's not ripe enough. It's one way, and that's a bit of disastrous. But as long as the pH has dropped by at least 0.2 towards the acid way, so that's lower, then it has ripened correctly in the 45 minutes to an hour that it normally takes to ripen those sorts of cheeses. Kep says, Same problem here, Mickey. Change the stirrer arms to straight bars. 125 mil high. Excellent. Best channel. Thanks for the help. No problems, Piccolo. Appreciate it. Okay, there's a bit of a chitty chat going on. All right. Kim says, when the clocks change next month, this will be happening at 8 p.m. UK time. Also easier for me to ring for, yeah, because Kim's from England. She hails from Southampton, of all places. Free the Oranges says, are you a cheese fondue man? I do like fondue. In fact, I remember I think I mentioned during the Gruyere video that I'd never tasted Gruyere before. I'd forgotten, so it wasn't a lie, I'd just forgotten, that I had visited Lucerne in Switzerland on a Contiki tour back when I was a young man. And they served up authentic Swiss fondue. And we actually saw them shaving Gruyere into the fondue pot, as well as some Traminer. I think it's Gewürztraminer is what it's called, the wine. And they add in that and a bit of brandy as well into the fondue. And they melt it all up and it becomes quite runny. But I do like fondue. It's been a long, long time since I've had some. And I know there was a big craze in, the 70s when everybody had a fondue kit. But yeah, it's an amazing thing, especially made with authentic Gruyere. Okay. Richard, I'm still waiting for your homemade pizza. Well, you'll keep waiting until it gets made on the 29th of September, which is the day we're having the pizza party here. And we'll show you the cheeses and all that sort of stuff. Should be good fun. My daughter and her friends, my daughter Megan, will be appearing. They said they're going to star. I don't know what they're going to do, but anyway, it should be interesting. Good fun. Mick says, what cheese do you favour for grilling? I do tend to enjoy the Alpine cheeses a lot better. So the harder Alpine, so Swiss is fantastic for grilling. Swiss as in Emmentaler or Gruyere, or even Piora was fantastic, which is an Alpine style cheese. So any tight knit or wholly Alpine cheese, even Jarlsberg from Norway is a delicious cheese grilled. So I find those harder textured cheeses tend to work out a lot better and taste just amazing. Go brown on top, the whole lot. Great stuff. But at a pinch, I did even use the 1-year-old cheddar just as an experiment to see what it tasted like when it was grilled. And that turned out okay. It wasn't too bad. It started to get on the slightly bitter, which was strange because I couldn't taste the bitterness when I was tasting it raw. So yeah, so that was a little bit different. Okay. Asman asks, Gavin, do you still box your wax cheeses in the cave? No. Once I've waxed or vacuum packed, I just put them straight on the shelf because that locks in the humidity. You don't need to create any extra humidity. It keeps the moisture in. So no, you don't need to put them in the ripening box. The only reason I use the ripening box is because I don't have a humidifier in the cheese fridge. So I want to keep the humidity high and I want to use the ripening box to lock in the moisture so I can make a natural rind on the cheese. And then usually, it depends on the cheese. You saw with the Gruyere that it started to grow all sorts of funny things. So you've got to really keep on top of cleaning the cheese. But like I said, with the Parmesan, I'll try and create a natural rind for 3 months, and then I'll vac pack it because after that, it's just pain in the bottom doing that. Jason, what's the best cheese to start with as a beginner? Try paneer. Very nice. But add a bit of salt to it because it's bland as anything without salt. Graham, Gavin, if I use raw milk, do I need to adjust down the amounts of starter culture? And I am keen to use a pH meter. Do you know any good resources for pH schedules, ripening rates? Yes, I do. Hang on, I'll just get a book. Where is it? This book here, Mastering Artisan Cheese Making by Giannicholas Caldwell. Has pH in all the steps. So if you wanted to do that, then that's a pretty good thing, pretty good book to use. As I said, it's called Mastering Artisan Cheesemaking by Giannicholas Caldwell. Very good resource. Gives very basic recipes in styles, not specific recipes. So that's pretty good. Okay, super chat from Dustin. Thank you, Dustin. I like harder cheeses like cheddar and have been indecisive as to something new. What should I make next? Done cheddar, jack, and Gouda already. Or Gouda, sorry, Gouda. As I've been told off many times before. Why don't you try, if you want something with a bit of flavour, try Romano. So it uses full cream milk, very similar process to Parmesan, and it's quite edible straight from the table. So it's a good table cheese, very strong, good with a very strong red wine or a port. So Dustin, try that. Try Romano if you haven't already tried to make it yet. Very simple process, but it does take a long time to mature. But you need that time for the proteins to break down and turn into lovely pecan flavours. Don't forget to add a little bit of either mild or sharp lipase when you make it. If you're not using raw milk, if you're using raw milk, it's fine. Okay, yeah, so, sorry, back to Graham. Graham also asked there about, do I need to adjust the amounts of starter culture? Look, with raw milk, a lot of cheesemakers tend not to add any starter cultures at all. All they do is add rennet because all of the lactobacillic bacteria are present in the milk already. So many artisan cheesemakers don't add any starter cultures at all when it comes down to using raw milk. So you will have to experiment. You can augment with starter cultures that aren't native to your region, and I can't tell you what's native to your region or not. You have to ask other cheesemakers, which is maybe difficult unless you join one of the Facebook groups, which are pretty cool. There's a couple of Facebook groups that I subscribe to. One is Learn to Make Cheese. It's really big now. It's about 10,000 people. And the other one is, if you're in Australia, Curds N Way. So it's Curds N Way Down Under is a great resource that I participate in as well. So I participate quite actively in both those Facebook groups. And you can ask questions like you do here, but you don't get an instant response. Check that out, Graham. Mick says, David Ash's book is great asset. Gav, thanks for the advice. Yeah, that one's pretty good as well. David Ash's book, Natural Cheese Making, it does some great stuff with raw milk if you've got that as well. And actually shows you how to make your own starter cultures and your own molds, which is really cool if you are on a budget and all you've got, the only asset you've got is raw milk. Okay. So we're getting nearly close to 50-minute mark. Got a few more questions, and then we'll call it a day. So Knit Kitten says, do you use calcium chloride raw milk pressed cheeses? No, you don't need to. The protein structure hasn't been destroyed by pasteurization, so you don't need to add in calcium chloride with raw milk, for anybody who's listening out there. Dustin says, I'll be sure to keep the Romano well labelled so I don't confuse it with the Parmesan I made a while back, but I'll give it a shot. Yeah, look, I tend to age the Romano at 10 months only, so it only needs about 10 months because it's got more fat, which breaks down faster. Mick says, see you next week. See you, Mick. Nearly finished, but not quite. And thanks for the link, Kim. Cool. Alrighty, so I think we're starting to run out of questions. Unless anybody's got any others, we can call a day. I'll wait for a couple of secs, catch my breath, have a drink of water. Okay, so I think the next video that I'll be producing is the one about molds. So very similar to the starter culture one that I did. I'm going to be talking about the different molds and enzymes that you can use to add to your cheese, and ripening agents like Brevibacterium linens. So just talking about the technicalities of those. I think that went down quite well. It wasn't one of the most popular videos I've ever made, but I think for people who ask a lot of questions, it really helps put links like, whoops, over that way, links into the chat box for these live shows, having videos like that to call upon to do. So that they're quite good, and people learn a lot from that anyway. So I'll do a bit of research and do the cultures, not a cultures, done the cultures, a molds and enzymes video next. And then I'll get a free weekend and I can make some more cheese, which would be great. Anyway, so a few last questions. The Flying Sujan says, do you ever need to wash your cheeses during periods of time during ages? It depends on the cheese. If it starts getting mold, yeah, wash it off with a salt and vinegar solution. Or if it's a washed rind cheese, you have to wash it with brine anyway. Okay. Thanks for the fondue, Brett. It smells like armpits. Yes, it does, and it is delicious. Anyway, well, we'll call it the end of the show. Don't forget that you can support the show via Patreon, by a monthly pledge for as little as $1 US. And there are some, what is it? It's not gifts. What do they call it? On Patreon, there's different levels, and if you get to a certain level, I think it's $20 a month, then I send you something, a free cheese book. And if it's above $20, I think I send you a free cheese kit anywhere in the world. So check out those, or you get a shout out during the show if it's $5 and above or something like that. Anyway, check them out. Don't know the difference between mesophilic 1 and 11. Kep, I'm not sure what you're talking about. I don't know what. 1. How about 1 and 2? Depends on where you get your cultures from. Just send me an email, Kep, and I'll try and explain it offline. Yes, my cheese fridge does smell awful at the moment, Kim, because I'm ripening that Port Salut, which is a washed rind cheese. Lots of Brevibacterium linens action going there. Quite amazing. I had to wash off a completely orange cheese the other day. But yeah, it seems to be working well. The colour's changing. It's starting to soften in the middle, so I'm looking forward to the Port Salut. Anyway, don't forget that you can super chat just before the end if you want to support during the show. Thanks for the people that have super chatted during the show. Appreciate the kind donations and answer your questions. And don't forget that you can buy any kits and all that sort of stuff, like the ones up here with the mouse head. I've got a large range. There's 10 or 11 sort of cheese kits there, and supplies over at littlegreenworkshops.com.au. And if Kim can pop the link up to our shop, that'll be fantastic. Anyway, Curd Nerds, thanks for watching the show. Thanks for all your lovely questions. I really appreciate it. And without your questions, there is no show. So I do appreciate you all turning up week on week. And it's lovely to see the same faces and some new ones every week as the show grows. All right, thanks for watching, Curd Nerds, and we'll see you next time.
Well, g'day, Curd Nerds. G'day, Curd Nerds.
Well, g'day, Curd Nerds.
Well, g'day, Curd Nerds.
Well, g'day, Curd Nerds. Well, g'day, Curd Nerds.